Module 7, Objective 9, discussed the functional significance of dual innervations and autonomic tone. Sympathetic activation has a widespread impact, and they reach organs and tissues throughout the body. Parasympathetic, on the other hand, innervates only specific visceral structures. Visceral, again, you should think internal organs. Most of our vital organs receive instructions from both divisions, so both sympathetic and parasympathetic activation. And remember, these two divisions frequently have opposing effects. In terms of the anatomy of this, the parasympathetic postganglionic fibers tend to accompany cranial nerves to the peripheral destinations, with about 75% of that traveling along the vagus, while sympathetic innervation reaches the same structures by traveling directly from the superior cervical ganglia of the sympathetic chain. And I will show you anatomically what that sympathetic chain is shortly. If we compare the neurotransmitters that are released between the two, we can use this graph to do that. We have a division between the CNS and the PNS, and we see that the preganglionic neurons both utilize acetylcholine. We see that here as well as here. The ganglionic neurons differ. For the parasympathetic, they also utilize acetylcholine. So acetylcholine is the only neurotransmitter used parasympathetically. On the sympathetic side, you have acetylcholine being used at the sympathetic ganglion, but then we have your either epinephrine or norepinephrine beyond. So from the sympathetic ganglion, we get the release of epinephrine and norepinephrine into the bloodstream, and for this you should think the adrenal gland or the suprarenal gland, releasing these hormones directly into the bloodstream. And then for direct sympathetic activation, we utilize norepinephrine. So all of those structures that are directly innervated by the sympathetic system utilizes norepinephrine, while the parasympathetic is purely acetylcholine. In terms of the anatomy of that dual innervation, we need to consider the autonomic plexuses. And remember, a plexus is an interwoven network of nerve fibers. If you consider a spinal nerve, okay, as it branches into the peripheral nerves, what we have often is these nerves start to intertwine with one another, and we call this a plexus. So it is it's a network of interwoven nerve fibers. We have autonomic plexus within the thoracic and abdominal pelvic cavities, and they're formed when you have that interwovenness of the sympathetic postganglionic fibers and the parasympathetic preganglionic fibers. And they're going to travel with the blood and lymphatic vessels that supply the visceral organs. The two plexus that we'll discuss are the cardiac and the pulmonary, but do know that there are others. The cardiac and the pulmonary, they have intersecting autonomic fibers within the thoracic cavity containing both sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers for the heart and the lungs. If we look at the actual anatomy, we can see the cardiac plexus right here above where the heart would be, and the pulmonary plexus right here where the lungs would be. I had noted earlier that I would identify that sympathetic chain, and that is also in this image. If you look right here, you start seeing these chains of ganglia that run down both the thoracic as well as the abdominal pelvic cavity. So they're right here, and we see that on both sides, even though it's sort of hidden, as they run down. And that is where sympathetic activation stems from. So the heart is receiving dual innervations. We have both divisions activating. Parasympathetic division utilizes acetylcholine released from the postganglionic fibers, and acetylcholine is going to slow the heart rate, while the sympathetic division releases norepinephrine, which accelerates the heart rate. And there's always a balance between the two. Um, and that balance creates autonomic tone. If you recall, muscle tone occurs when you have at least one motor unit in a state of contraction, given the muscle a slight bulge, hence definition. We also have autonomic tone. Both the parasympathetic and sympathetic divisions are constantly releasing a small amount of neurotransmitter. And it's almost like driving with one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake. Constant amounts of neurotransmitters are being released from both sides, and that creates autonomic tone. It's a type of muscle tone within the autonomic system, and it keeps sort of all of these structures sort of geared up and ready to go. Parasympathetic innervation dominates under resting conditions when considering the heart. And of course, within a crisis, heart rate is going to be stimulated by the sympathetic innervation, and you get an inhibition of the parasympathetic. So again, if you take, again, the analogy of one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, during times of crisis, the pedal that's on the gas, or the foot that's on the gas, is going to depress, and you're going to speed up while the other foot is going to come off the brake. So you get an inhibition of the parasympathetic, the foot taken off the brake, while a stimulation of the sympathetic, one foot depressing the gas. So you end up with an acceleration of the heart rate.